Interpretation Act. For greater certainty includes the internal waters of Canada and the territorial sea of Canada. That's not Alberta.
North Saskatchewan.
Person or any word, expression descriptive of a person includes a corporation. That's not me.
It's the whore that sits on it.
Person. Alberta Interpretation Act includes a corporation and the heirs, executors, administrators, or other legal representatives of a person. That's not me. This is criminal code. Municipality. This is true. I mean, all you got to do is read these books. Includes a corporation of a city, town, village, county, township, parish, or other territorial local division of a province, the inhabitants of which are incorporated. That's true.
Which of these do not fit?
Or are entitled to hold property collectively for some public purpose.
Trustees.
Driver. Means a person.
Yeah, there you go.
Who is driving?
A person is. Yeah.
Not me.
Freaking thing is driving by itself.
It's like Ford Motor Company. Ford Motor Company makes rules and regulations for their employees. Does that mean anything to you?
No.
What happens when you get involved with the internal rules and regulations for Ford Motor Company?
Nothing.
When the Parliament uses general terms like all persons or all residents, they're only talking about persons or residents who are properly within their jurisdiction. That's the Supreme Court of Canada. Parliament can only implicate a sovereign citizen by express mention or a clear implication.
Hold on a second, I gotta write that down. Okay.
Sovereign is not a person as far as the statute's concerned.
So let's, okay.
Canada, there's two jurisdictions, the geographical landmass and the juristic federal unit. Words and phrases judicially decided in Canadian courts. The word Canada, as used in Section 91(1) of the Constitution Act, does not refer to Canada as a geographical unit, but refers to a juristic federal unit. The usual form of juristic person is at common laws, and the only one at common law is a corporation. Name is sovereign, 3 sovereigns in the U.S. Actually, this one here is the United States of America. This one here is the District of Columbia, Guam, American Samoa, and Puerto Rico. And that's that. Now, you can even find that in the United States Code. I'll tell you that.
District of Columbia is owned by who? Puerto Rico?
District of Columbia is the United States.
Yeah.
The United States is 10 square miles over there between Virginia and Maryland. You go across the border south of Alberta, that's not United States, that's Montana.
Yeah.
It would be treason or a breach of trust for the government to attempt to force a member of the sovereignty in any other jurisdiction, according to the Supreme Court in U.S. versus Guam.
So you just wear the sovereign hat is what I'm getting. You just put the hat on a sovereignty.
They know you're sovereign.
That's who you are.
They know you're sovereign.
Yeah.
But you have to assert it.
Yeah.
And so you have to assert it, and you have to stay out of their contracts.
Just be it.
You have to understand this, right? You have to be it. You have to not only talk the talk, you got to walk the walk. You have to, you know, I mean, in other words, I'm not a resident. They try and use these words to get you into their jurisdiction, okay? And because of their hired thugs, we don't have them trained. We got to get our hired thugs trained.
Are they paying us for this?
Huh?
Said, should we not issue the fee schedule before we do our educational?
Really, really.
I don't think so. They
Travel on the public highway with their private property are not subject to regulation in any way. Sovereigns have the right to travel on the public highway with their private property and are not subject to regulation in any way. Sovereigns have unimpaired access to the first 8 amendments to the U.S. Constitution. This is in the U.S. Subjects do not have access to the first 8 amendments to the U.S. Constitution. Did you know that? Except what Congress might grant. This is taken from Title 18, United States Code, Section 31. The term motor vehicle means every description, carriage, or other contrivance propelled or drawn by mechanical power and used for commercial purposes on the highways in the transportation of passengers and property or cargo. And then it even goes on to define what commercial purposes is. It means the carriage of persons or property for any fare, fee, rate, charge, or other consideration directly or indirectly in connection with any business or other undertaking intended for profit. I'm just traveling.
What's the definition of profit?
Who cares? It's business.
No, there's no profit.
In doing this, I shall have occasion incidentally to evince how true it is the states and governments were made for man, at the same time how his creatures and servants had first deceived, next vilified, and at last oppressed their master and maker. Let a state be considered as subordinate to the people, let everything else be considered to be subordinate to the state. And that's Chisholm versus Georgia. In order for a member of the sovereignty to become subject to regulation anyway, they must agree. As with any contract, it must be knowing, willing, and intentional, and they're never knowing, willing, and intentional. Ignorance of the law is no excuse. Anytime you get anything from the government, it's an implied contract that brings you into their jurisdiction. Anytime you register for anything or make application for anything from the government, you're giving them a power of attorney to make legal determinations for you and represent you. You're making them competent in your affairs. You're telling them you're a person. You're converting yourself into a slave. Now, a lot of times they come up and want you to sign stuff, right? So you have to understand how to do your signature. And if you notice on my documents, these are my documents that I'm serving on them, right? So I don't put by in front of my name. But if you look on other documents, like my Canadian passport, I put by in front of my name there. Because the name is, that passport is a corporation. So I'm the authorized representative. And so that's why I put by in front of my signature. Because as the authorized representative, I'm not responsible for anything. And so you got to know when to and how you do your signature. I always put by in front of my name if it's anything involving them. Yes?
Is per the same as by?
Well, I haven't. No, it wouldn't be. Because I don't think it would be. I've seen it done by. I mean, I've gotten letters from bureaucrats with some clerk signing by. See what I'm saying? Per is more like saying,
Agent for.
yeah, I'm not sure. I'd have to think about that.
It's an agent for, because I signed my driver's license with her, and the gal had a bit of a problem with it. She said, "What's this?" And I said, "It's just the way I signed my name." So she said, "Oh, okay."
Yeah, they're just idiot clerks. All statutes are written very carefully and do not apply to we the people. 99% of the time the government's technically correct. It's not up to the government to tell you you're a member of the sovereignty. The government lawyers make a statute that properly applies to those entities they have jurisdiction over. The burden is on us to assert ourselves. If a member of the sovereignty gets unknowingly involved in something that operates as a contract by which he might lose his sovereignty, he has made a mistake of law and fact. Courts have ruled that the government is not the protector of the Constitution. If the government is not the protector of the Constitution, then who is?
We the people.
It is the people, that's right. And how do they do it? We protect the Constitution by challenging what the government does through the courts and administratively. This is all administrative procedure. The burden of the sovereign is on the sovereigns to know and understand the law and to assert their sovereignty. All contracts must be entered into knowingly, willingly, and intentionally. None of the contracts entered into with the government by which you might lose your sovereignty are willing, intentional, or knowing. The sovereignty of the people is unalienable and imprescriptible. In order to regain your sovereignty, you must assert it. When you assert your sovereignty in this way, you build a case with evidence you can use in court at a future date, should you need to do so. Send all documents by registered mail with a return receipt if possible. The government attorneys may turn it over to a bureaucrat who may also respond off point. If the government were to admit that you are right, they would be admitting to treason, extortion, genocide, and other indictable offenses. The government attorneys will probably not respond at all. In order to be a true sovereign, you must be self-reliant. You must not only talk the talk, you must walk the walk. You must be knowledgeable about the law and how it works. You must be prepared to take the initiative in court if necessary. You must make it known in no uncertain terms that you're all of the above. Nobody said it would be easy, but it is possible. What's the alternative? That's why I tell them, go ahead, send your hired thugs over to my house and have them take me out back and blow my brains out because I'm not going away.
Jail.
And that's the end of that one. I guess we got through it. The important thing is,
Are you working currently when you're getting contracts in your business? Are you working with our social insurance numbers and such?
oh, absolutely, never ever give that stuff up.
And they'll still hire you?
Well, it's a little bit more difficult. There's less jobs that are available. Some of them want me to go direct, and I just tell them, look, I only do corp to corp. I have a corporation that, if you notice, you see my business, American Engineering Services. They contract American Engineering Services, and that's who the check goes to, and then American Engineering Services pays me. Now, there's really no requirement to withhold, okay? And so, and I have a private contract with American Engineering Service to get paid. Actually, it's
compensation.
yeah, it's compensation for labor, but I think it's $50 a week in coin. Okay. In other words, one gold eagle or a gold maple. Yes. Did you have something?
I just wanted you to mention where you're gonna be next week. Grand Prairie.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I'll be up in Grand Prairie next week on the 12th. It'll be on the 12th with my brother's putting on a seminar up in Grand Prairie. But I don't have the address here. But send me an email. You got my email. If you need, I got business cards here if you want. Anybody that got my package has my email address. Anybody that didn't and wants it, you can come up and get one of my business cards, and you can contact me, and I'll get you the address if you want to go or know somebody that wants to go. So yes.
Yeah, we were discussing before, like if we could find all the groups like us in Alberta and have a convention. And this is the first time I heard that there's any group up in Grand Prairie. Say hello to them from us and tell them they're welcome to come down anytime and visit us.
Okay. All right. Well, these are, again, it's pretty loose networks. I mean, it's basically people that my brother knows, up there. I don't know if you are familiar with Murray Govro. You ever heard of Murray Govro?
I've heard the name.
He's my brother.
Oh, you too.
And he knows a lot of people all over the place. So he basically, what happened is my dad died and my mom got remarried and I got adopted. That's the reason my last name's Burke. Yes.
I was gonna say, how would you deal with workers' compensation? Because that's one thing we're having a hard time. You know, like builders won't hire you if you don't have workers' compensation coverage.
Yeah, I have never, you gotta have a social insurance number to get workers' compensation anyway. So if you try and pay it, they won't let you. See what I'm saying? I think a lot of it might be just educating whoever you're dealing with. Look into that, because that's the way I approach it, is that I don't have a social insurance number, and it's a felony to compel the disclosure of Social Security, in the States at least, and I'm sure it is here too. to compel a disclosure or something like that. And I was in the Supreme Court twice. And the first time it was I sued the IRS. And when I got to the Supreme Court, I give them an affidavit that said I have never had a Social Security number. I do not have a Social Security number, and I've never had one. No problem. Because I don't. Okay? It's the straw man that has it. See what I'm saying? So you can honestly say you don't have one. Especially once you build yourself a track record of asserting yourself. You see what I'm saying? And separate yourself from their straw man, then it's not you. So, I can't possibly give you one, so even if I was to pay it, I guarantee you, I bet you that they won't even take the money, workers' compensation, unless you got a social insurance number.
But it's the corporation that has to have workers' compensation
No,
coverage.
if you're a self-employed contractor and you own the corporation and you have no employees.
Then you don't need it, but they
Then you don't
still
need it.
want to make sure the corporation has it, so we did it. And now, all kinds of threatening letters and all
Well,
kinds of stuff.
look into that.
If you have no employees, you don't.
The way you approach it is,
They say you do, or they won't even consider your
Yeah.
contracting.
that's the way I
It's
approach it,
absolutely
yes.
brutal.
Yeah, I just had a son, and in order to stay out of jail, because of obviously of coercion, I named his person Austin, and that's not anywhere on any documents. And then I put Edmund Taylor. That way I'm training my kids that they can wear the hat, right? But I just want a little input on what your thoughts on the registry of birth, and then I noticed that there was a notice of live birth, which then became the birth certificate. So yeah, I'm just asking in general what you think about that whole.
I've had government officials tell me that recording births in the back of the Bible, there's nothing wrong with it. And I know for a fact that during the communist days, okay, when Russia was a communist country, I mean, when it's still communist, but we're just almost the same. But anyways, the point is though is that there's people that I know of that would travel internationally when a passport was required and use a baptismal certificate, and they would get by just fine.
Not great.
And so I guess the point is that they want you to think that you have to do their solution. Well, you don't necessarily have to.
Yeah, but they threaten us with like 10 years jail,
Well,
$50 fine.
you got to understand who they're threatening. They're not threatening you; they're threatening a person. You got to.
And just, something you have to realize, 90% of it is bluff.
Right.
If you believe the threat,
Of course, you
and then you capitulate, well, they've got you.
You know how bad it is? To the IRS, all the wage taxes, like the wage, the filing, the W-2s and the 1099s, they're all classified as gift and estate taxes.
Oh, I know.
They're not even income taxes.
Yeah, that's true. Well, income is corporate profits too. I could show you a Supreme Court case that says that. So, I don't have any income.
And then, of course, when they had why did they repeal that capital transfer tax free? Do you understand what that was all about?
Capital gains tax?
No,
I don't know.
The capital transfer tax in the States.
No idea.
So they had a capital transfer exemption that went away.
Who knows? They probably found out it was unconstitutional.
Well, no, they just repealed it and then they were going to reenact it a year later. It was really weird.
Might have something to do with the bankruptcy.
I think so.
Yeah, well, just to.
They might be, but I think they're getting ready to file another bankruptcy. You remember, if you go to Dun & Bradstreet and do a search for the United States of America, you'll find out that it's number 4. So watch it from time to time, it might turn into number 5.
Maybe they did it because they needed to move a large amount of assets and they'll get taxed for it.
Who knows? I mean, they're just all a bunch of thieves.
Yeah.
Whatever. It's GM and Ford. It has nothing to do with me.
Keep asking questions if you have questions.
What you do is if you get wind of anything going on, like for example, you get a letter from the city says your grass is too long, please mow your grass or else pay this fine of $200. Well, that's an offer of contract, and I would find out who the administrator is of that thing, of that department, and he would get one. And I'd reject his offer of contract.
Okay.
But yeah, that's definitely, especially if you live in a city, you know, you gotta figure the city police, you know, St. Albert, I mean, you travel in St. Albert, do they have their own city police in St. Albert? RCMP. What about Sherwood Park? RCMP? Yeah, so the RCMP is who you really need to
All
do.
municipals have RCMP, city.
Right. Now, what I did before I came here, okay, because I knew I was ultimately going to come here, is I did the Edmonton, Calgary, Lethbridge City Police Chiefs and police commissioners, and then I did the RCMP and I did the Attorney General, and but now I'm doing some other ones. If anybody, there's a bunch of signatures I could use. So anybody that hasn't signed, I appreciate you witnessing my signature. It'd be great. Thank you. Yes.
Recording, when you want to record these documents, criminal complaint, record it.
You can send them to Pinal County, Arizona. They'll record it.
Record it in the US as well.
Yeah. Well, or if you can find some place here in Canada, like the PPSA, I've heard that they'll record stuff.
Hey
so-
guys, can we keep the conversation down so we can get clear answers?
As long as it's recorded into the public. The important thing is recorded into the public. And land titles has a miscellaneous category, so, I mean, that's a, really where it should be done, but wherever, I don't care. I mean, as long as it's recorded into the public, the judges have to give judicial notice once it's recorded. Otherwise, they can basically ignore it if they want, you know. They can play all sorts of games. Once it's recorded, they cannot, they're a lot less power to ignore it. Yes?
Yeah, I was talking 2 weeks ago to the vital statistics agent for the Alberta government. And he said, he was smelling me, he's like, oh, you're one of those free-man guys. And I was like, no, I'm not a free man. I'm just, you know, just intrinsically curious. I don't want to label myself anything. I just say I'm asking questions. And he said that if I identify you as a free man, I don't have to answer any questions. So that's the policy, is they don't respond to us at all. They just shut up, hang up the phone, and that's it. And I was wondering why.
Who was this that said that?
He was an agent for the vital statistics in Alberta.
Oh, well, that's because it has nothing to do with the people. Okay, that's all corporations.
So he's not talking to me, he's talking to my straw man.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They do whatever the hell they want to.
And well, again, it's Ford or GM. You know, what's that got to do with me? And what happens? Okay, you got to understand. Remember, it's the matrix again.
Yeah.
Okay, you can see the matrix, but they can't see you. You see what I'm saying?
So they hang up the phone and they're
So-
not hanging up on you.
They can't see you. They don't recognize you. You see what I'm saying? I don't recognize them.
It's bizarre, like he's not.
It's like they don't exist. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And a good example is a bank account. Okay, I've got 2 bank accounts. I've had them for a long time. One of them has a social insurance number associated with it. One of them doesn't. It's interesting to note that where like I go on the website, when I log into these bank accounts, the one with the social insurance number is the name's all block capital letters. The one without it, the name is upper and lowercase. They know.
Yeah.
And so, you know, I've been thinking about closing the one down with the social insurance number, quite frankly, because I like the one without, you know, and I'd probably open another one without, you know, because I don't want to have anything to do with that, you know. And what's happening, I can tell you right now, is they're probably reporting stuff to Revenue Canada. Who knows what they're reporting, you know. It's none of their business. And it's, again, it's Ford and GM, you know. Yes.
Now, when you notice officials, do you send it by registered mail or just plain mail?
Oh, no, registered mail, absolutely. Registered mail is kept under lock and key, and there's a chain of custody, okay? Absolutely minimum registered mail. If you can get 3 or 4 people to effect service for you, I mean, you have a fairly good sized group, so you ought to be able to get some people to help you out, and then you help each other out, you know? But that's even better, okay? You get 3 or 4 people to effect personal service, and then you make up an affidavit saying, I hereby, you know, Glen Fern, an inhabitant of the land of Edmonton County, near 10634 132nd Street. You see what I'm saying? And you never put, you use the address, but you're always near the address. You see what I'm saying? Because the address is in the fiction.
You know what?
Okay.
I have something to say on that, by the way.
What?
I was in a court where the master chambers hearing one time. It's not really a chambers thing, but whatever. They were mentioning a foreclosure property, and they were saying it was in the county of Lacombe, near Alberta. That's what they said.
See, but notice it's county of Lacombe. Because if you go down to Lacombe, even their building is Lacombe County.
Yeah, but he said near Alberta.
Right.
Where's that supposed to be?
Right. Well, it's near because it's in the corporation. Alberta, they were talking about is the de jure entity. See what I'm saying?
Probably, yeah.
They were talking about the de jure entity, so it's near the de jure
So
entity.
he was trying to touch upon it.
Right,
Yeah.
right. See, and so therefore I live on the land of Alberta, Edmonton County. I might even say, I probably wouldn't say Edmonton City, because that's.
And sorry to distract
corporation.
you, to swear that you served it.
But I'd say, well, but as far as you're serving it on a government bureaucrat, okay, you go ahead and put him in the city of Edmonton. You see what I'm saying? And put him in a zip code or postal code, you see, because he's in a martial law jurisdiction, and proceed that way. But again, you have to be thinking about this stuff, and words are everything. Words are absolutely everything, and you got to be real careful on words. Never use the word resident. Never use the word. There's a lot of words you have to be real careful with, like not city of Edmonton, unless it's them. You
So I
know?
say Edmonton City, that's what I said.
Yeah, and so if it's you, then Edmonton City is fine. Never use zip codes or postal codes. I mean, you gotta start. You know, again, it becomes a way of life. You know, you can't just talk the talk. You gotta walk the walk. It's a way of life. You gotta start just looking at everything you're doing and how you're doing it.
Sign on the right side of a document as a creditor rather than the debtor, right?
Yeah. Well, I always put it on the right side. I don't know anything about creditor and debtor stuff, but I don't owe any money to anybody.
Yeah. Well, you're the creditor, you're the trustor.
Right.
So you're sign on the right side.
Yeah, that's their definition.
Yeah, I know, just let you see it.
Yeah.
Is that yours, Glenn? Sounds like it.
Oh, it's in the code.
It's funny how they put the things.
Okay, everybody, I thank you all for coming. I guess we've got about 15 minutes. Maybe I'll answer a question or two more, but we are effectually done. I'd really like to thank Glenn for the work he does and for